this morning is Nico Marrero, who you may see on your screen. He's a very beloved nephew of mine, and he's living in Scotland. He's a software development engineer with Amazon, and he's going to tell us about some of his life abroad and what's going on. Oh, he's also an avid outdoorsman. He has done some pretty fascinating hikes. I can remember hearing about one from one end of the country to the other. And I'm sure that he'll be able to fill us in on these things that have been going on with him. So he does live in Scotland with his wife Shasta, who is Dr. McGee. I think she's a professor at one of the universities there now, and I'm sure he'll tell us about that. Okay, Nico, what played into your decision to live and work abroad?
Well, so we originally moved to Scotland because my wife Shasta got a postdoc at the University of Edinburgh, and so we moved over to Scotland. We brought our dog Kasha over, and she started working at the university there. So the postdoc was a temporary contract. Like postdocs usually just last a couple of years, but it gave her some amazing opportunities. She got to go and do research in Antarctica, so she got to travel down to Antarctica and collect rock samples because she's a geologist, and that was on her bucket list. She wanted to visit all 7 continents, and that is definitely the hardest one to get to. So she was able to do that, and then when she finished her postdoc, she continued working for the university, and so we stayed in Scotland. So it was originally for 2 years, and that was 7 years ago. We absolutely fell in love with Scotland. It's absolutely wonderful. But due to the nature of employment and things like that, we have recently, and I mean just recently, the boxes are still packed up, moved from Scotland to Wales. So we're still in the UK, but we're in, as opposed to being up in Scotland with the whiskey, we're down in Wales with the dragons. So.
Okay. Interesting. So did you move to Wales to be closer to Shasta's university?
Yeah, so she was originally at University of Edinburgh. Now she's at University of Cardiff, and that had started also as a temporary contract, but then she's been offered a permanent position now. So we'll be down here for at least a few more
Very
years.
good. So you first moved over to Europe because of the job opportunities that opened up for her, and you've been there 7 years now? Okay.
Maybe even a little bit more than that, but yeah.
It's been a while.
It has been a long time.
What adjustments did you need to make in your lifestyle coming from New Mexico?
Probably the biggest one is, in the US we have quite the car culture. So cities are organized with suburbs that are very far away from grocery stores, and you have to have a car to get places. Over here it's very different. There's lots of people have cars, but you by no means have to have one. So the last time I owned a car was when I was in the US. So I don't drive very much. I don't even have a license that works over here now, because the public transportation's been just fine. We can take buses and trains to get places, and we mostly just walk. So, I can walk 10 minutes to the grocery store and fill a backpack up with groceries and walk back. So it's been great for trying to keep me in shape, of course, pre-COVID, because now with COVID, that's all out the window, and there's no going anywhere. And, groceries, we get groceries delivered now. But that was one of the big adjustments. I think another one has also been the language. So, when you move to another country and they speak a completely different language, then you expect things to be different. But when you move from an English-speaking country to an English-speaking country, it's the little changes that really, really trip you up, at least that I found. So it started actually when I started working for Amazon, because as you probably heard, I don't pronounce it Amazon because they don't call it Amazon over here. They call it Amazon. So it's almost like the O at the end doesn't exist. It's Amazon. So that's one of the interesting things. Kids study maths. They don't study math. So it's like there's lots of math. So it's maths. Things like that. And those are small. Those aren't too bad. The really, really tough ones are where a word has a completely different meaning. So if I was going to go out and it was cold, I would put on my trousers. I would not put, I would hope that I would already have pants on. So for those of you who already know, in the UK, pants means underwear. It doesn't mean your trousers. So that's led to some interesting kind of cultural exchanges. There's a friend of ours who's also from the U.S. He's at University of Edinburgh studying glaciers. So not glaciers, they're glaciers. And he's really avid biker. He loves to bike everywhere, and there's some wonderful places to bike out here. But as you probably know about, Scotland and the rest of the UK, it rains a lot here. So he went to a sporting goods store to get some waterproof trousers, but he didn't know about the whole pants trousers thing,
Oh
and so
my
he went
goodness.
in, yeah, and he was saying, I need some waterproof pants. And the poor teenage girl who was working there was like, we don't sell those here. He's like, what do you mean? I'm biking. I need some waterproof pants. And she said, well, you might need to go to a specialty place. Like, do you mean like Depends or something like that? And there was quite a bit of confusion until a manager came by and was able to, he was aware of the difference in language. So it's led to a lot of laughter, a lot of funny things. Not quite when somebody doesn't quite get it. I recently, because Scotland's been getting a whole lot of snow, so some of the other people on my team at Amazon were talking about going sledging, and I was like, "You mean like you're breaking down walls with a giant hammer?" They're like, "No, it's a piece of plastic that you ride down the hill on." And it's like, "Oh, we call that sledding." So yeah, it mostly just leads to laughter, which is nice. Everybody's understanding.
You said that you mostly walk for transportation then.
Mhm.
Do you wear shoes now? Nico was
So
always the barefooted one.
yeah, so what Jeanette's referring to is the university that I was at in New Mexico had a very nice grassy campus, which maybe you might not necessarily expect for central New Mexico, but the way water rights work, if you don't use it, then you lose it. So they had a golf course and lots and lots of grass. So when I was going to uni there, or sorry, when I was going to university there, because everybody here calls it uni, not university or college, um, I started going barefoot because it was a very, very nice campus. I had problems being on time to class, and I found that by not putting shoes on, I could get out the door just a few minutes sooner, and it kind of stuck. But I guess to make a short story long, I guess. Yes, I do wear shoes now because walking in central Edinburgh, I found it not terribly nice barefoot. I did do it for a little while, but there's something in the trees here. When it rains, they drip something on the pavement. Sorry, on the sidewalk, and it makes it really, really slick. So I would I would slide sometimes, and this is like middle of summer. It's not icy, but it was just something off the trees. So not only that, drinking is quite a UK pastime. That you've got the pub culture, and there's a lot of people who even when they're no longer, say, college age, they still like to over imbibe, and so there's a lot of stuff that gets left on the street that you wouldn't want to step in barefoot.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Tell us about your employment with Amazon. What do you do?
So I did not work for Amazon before moving over to the UK. So this after Shasta got back from Antarctica, we said, okay, I should probably start looking for a job. So that's when I found Amazon and started working for them. I've been on multiple different teams with them now, so I can give you like some quick high level views, and then if you have further questions, I'm happy to do more detail. But I started working for Amazon Storyteller, which was something that I didn't know about at the time. But I'm sure everybody's heard of Amazon Studios. They're the ones who make all of the Prime original series and stuff that Amazon gives you when you're a Prime subscriber. They had decided that they wanted to try a new way to get scripts. So in the traditional Hollywood method, script writers have agents, and those agents shop the scripts around, and then studios will pick them up, and that was kind of how that worked. But it's I don't know, it's not terribly easy to enter that arena. So Amazon was saying, well, maybe we can crowdsource our scripts. We can make a site where people can upload their own scripts, and then we will review them and we will decide if we want to option them and turn them into something. So they decided if they were going to do that, well, they were going to be all in. So that's definitely something about Amazon. When they decide they want to try something, they will throw tons of resources at it to try to make it successful. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, as we all know from like the Fire Phone or some of the other things. That don't always work, but then you also get these bets that they're willing to put enough resources that it really does start to catch on. Like, I've got 2 different Alexa devices in my home right now, and she plays music for me and she turns my lights on and all that stuff. Anyway, so Amazon Studios, they were making these different tools for script writers. And so one of them was Storyteller that I worked on. And that's where the script writer would upload their script and it would get processed. And then we had a tool that they could just use on their computer in the browser, so you didn't have to download a separate app, where you could say, click on lines in the script and it would create scenes and you could make storyboards. And it would know who said what, so that if you used a particular asset for this character, it would always use that same asset for that same character, things like that, so that it would be easy to create a storyboard and be able to help shop around your script or to help visualize your script. So that was the first thing I worked on. That was a ton of fun. I have such fond memories of that. I got to work on that for about a year and a little bit before there was some reorganization that was happening, and they pulled the project back to Seattle. It's since been sunsetted. I think Amazon Studios has stopped doing the upload your own script thing. I think they found it wasn't quite working as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Doris just called and he's on his way home.
I need to break in and let y'all know that I have to leave the group right now. I have to go pick up my stepson, and he needs a ride to where he's going. And so I'm going to have to leave you for today, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
I can.
Bye.
Okay, go ahead, Nico.
So that was the very first project that I worked on. So when that got taken back to Seattle, the members of the team got moved to other projects that were still in the development center in Edinburgh. And so I moved on to dynamic merchandising. And this is something that actually you will all be familiar with if you have ever shopped on Amazon, because when you go there, you'll see things like items inspired by your wish list, or customers who purchase this also purchase. That's the recommendation system that Amazon has. Almost like advertising, but not really, because they're saying, here are things on the Amazon site that we think you'd like to buy from Amazon. But working on that was quite a bit of fun. I did that for a little while, and then decided I wanted to try something new. So there was a point where ICANN, which is the global organization that's kind of in charge of the domain names on the internet, they released a whole bunch of new top-level domains. So a top-level domain is like .com, .org, .net. Those are the really common ones. They released all kinds of stuff, like there was .rocks and .moi and all kinds of these words. So a whole bunch of companies went and scooped them up. So I think Google got .rocks, and Amazon took .moi and .bot and things like that. What Amazon wanted to do was spin up individual businesses around those top level domains, so that people could then buy, yourname.moi and start up, their own kind of website. So there were very specific rules on how companies can do that, so that, say, if you are a company that helps people purchase the actual domain names, then you have to keep that very, very separate, like legally, from the bit of the company or the company that owns the top level domain. So there was a whole bunch of crazy stuff there. But Amazon spun up teams to kind of to manage that. So that was Amazon Registry, and so that was the next team that I moved on. And I was on there for a little while, working with them. And then that project also got pulled back to Seattle. I don't know whether it was me or whether it just happens, but we had, what was it? I think 12 engineers and 2 managers on that team when it got pulled. And so because we're a very unique development center here in Scotland, where it's not just, oh, you work for Amazon. It's like, no, you work for Amazon Development Center Scotland. So when our project got pulled, they found again, a place for all of us. In this case, they actually kept us all together, which is kind of amazing for a team of 12 people, but we moved into advertising. And so that's where I am now. So what I do now for Amazon advertising is when people come and advertise on Amazon, it generates an enormous amount of data. So it's not just the normal stuff that you might expect, like how many people saw the ad, how many people clicked on the ad, there's all that kind of stuff. But then there's a whole bunch of little metrics about taking like the total cost and the number of people that seen it and derive different things. And so there's just this giant amount of data. And so what my team does is we help customers understand kind of what happened when they ran their advertisements, by helping process that data, by showing bits of it in different ways, so that they can make sure that for the amount of money that you're spending to advertise, that you're getting something out of it, and it's something that you understand what you're getting out of it, versus just saying, well, I'll throw some money in an ad and I hope my product will do better, that kind of thing. So that's what I do now.
Okay.
So,
Now, I heard about a year ago or so that Amazon was looking into renting fine art and other projects like that. Was that just a rumor, or have you heard of that?
so renting fine art, as in like painting,
Yes, like a Van Gogh or something like that.
I don't know.
Okay.
The
It might have
business
been a
is so big. I think were we over 1 million employees now? Like it's all over the world. There's so many unique things that are happening in so many different places that, even within advertising, I know that I only get to see a tiny little bit of what's going on. I mean, both in terms of like that's a good secure way to do things. Like if you want to keep things secret before you're ready to launch them, then it's better not to let other people know. And also just all these different domains are so complicated. I think if I was hearing tons and tons of news about another one, my head would just explode.
Go back to your life there in Scotland and now Wales. Are there any food or customs that you miss from the US?
Oh, yes. So
Some examples.
all right. So one of the things that I've learned about America, now that I'm no longer part of it, is America are the masters of sugar, of doing the most amazing things where you mix different kinds of sugar together to come up with the best sweet treats. I mean, so one of the biggest things that I miss certainly is Girl Scout cookies, because you cannot get that over here.
Girl
Aw.
Scout cookies?
No Girl Scout cookies. They have something that's like the Girl Scouts called the Girl Guides, but they don't sell cookies that I've seen. So no Girl Scout cookies. I always really loved those animal cookies, Mother's animal cookies that would be frosted, and there were the
Yeah.
pink ones and the white ones. Love
Uh-huh.
those. Can't get those over here. So that's definitely some of the food that I miss from the States. Also, being from New Mexico, I was weaned on green chili. I love green chili,
Oh.
and that is something that every time we go back, we bring some. It travels really well. If you can get like the frozen Bueno green chili in a package, we'll grab like 5 or 6 of those, stuff them in some cardboard in the middle of our suitcase, and it will still be frozen when we get over to the UK. So that's been great. That travels really nicely. Let's see. A lot of things. Well,
You said no Girl Scout cookies, no Mother's animal cookies. So have you noticed a difference in stature or a lack of obesity with the
so I feel like the UK is they're working on it. They're trying to get right up there to where the US is. It's still an issue. I think COVID's actually made it a lot worse. Because you think with all the walking, with not quite, you're not allowed to use high fructose corn syrup here. That might change with Brexit, because I believe that might have been an EU regulation, but soda tastes very different. It's actually kind of fun. I'll bring soda back from the US, and just so that I can like have a Dr. Pepper from the US and a Dr. Pepper from here and just taste the difference. It's subtle. It's not quite as sweet. But no, they definitely they struggle with some of the same sedentary sort of health issues that the US has. I think it's just behind it by a few years, certainly.
Well, I know that you've been able to experience some different customs. I believe I saw a picture of you wearing a kilt at one point.
Oh yes. So you were asking like what kind of foods that I
Oh,
miss from
yeah,
the
but
US. But in terms of what kinds of foods that I really really like over here, the first thing that always comes to mind is haggis. So when you hear haggis, if you know what it is, you're like, ew. If you don't know what it is, it's better to taste it before finding out what it is. But it's actually really really good. There's all the different places you can go to in Scotland. They all kind of have their own version of haggis. At least they did. It's starting to get taken over by like Restaurant Supply, where it's all the same haggis. But it's actually really tasty. It's organ meat mixed with a whole lot of spices, and like some oats. So, personally, like steak and kidney pies, I don't care for that at all. I can't really stomach liver, that kind of stuff, but haggis is delicious. Um, but yes, I do own a kilt. So in in Scotland, so kilts, the different tartans tend to represent like the clans, the sort of the
yes.
family that you belong to. So since I well talking to my uncle Chris, he thinks we actually do have a Scottish clan that we're related to. But to be on the safe side, I got a tartan that was from the Black Watch, and the Black Watch is actually it was a military. Oh, I don't remember what size, but it was made up of foreigners, so it is the foreigner tartan. But it's a really really nice color too. So yeah, so I will wear that to Kaylee's. I've got
What's
the
Casey?
I'll get there in just a
Okay.
second. So I've got the Sporin, which is the leather pouch that kind of sits in front where you can, you put your phone in your wallet and stuff. And the giant socks that come up past your knees. So I've got all the accessories. And Kaylee's are what I tend to wear my kilt to. I've also worn them to work functions because like work parties. But a Kaylee is a Scottish dance. So my wife Shasta really really likes to dance. She was huge on swing dancing, and that's not as common here though it still does exist. But Kaylee's are the big thing. So a Kaylee is a lot like kind of like a square dance where you have a caller, someone who's telling you kind of what to do. I think probably if it's not a beginner Kaylee, maybe they don't have the collar and they just expect you to know the dances. But when I go, I don't know the dances at all. But it's a lot of jumping and spinning and turning, and it's very very active, and it's a lot of fun. And kilts are just perfect for that because you're spinning, so the kilt is turning almost like a kind of the way like poodle skirts would like spin when people are swinging. So that can be a whole lot of fun. You see these big buff guys spinning and having the kilt kind of swing around. Um, but it's also been really really I mean, the kilt that I have is made, it's modern, so it's got like practically belt buckles in it, but you can go to some of the castles because man, Scotland is, it's all whiskey and all castles. Like you can't throw a rock without hitting a castle, and that rock probably fell off another castle. There are so many castles here, but a lot of them have these historical interpreters and things like that. And so some of the ones that we've gone to, actually this was at Dune, my favorite, which I'll get onto why, because I bet a lot of you might be familiar with this. They actually show original kilts, like where it's just this giant bolt of cloth that you would fold a certain way, lay on the ground, and then kind of roll in. And the Scottish men, they could actually use them like sleeping bags at night. And they showed how you have to like hike it up and pull it between your legs so that you can run, because otherwise you can't really fight if you're in a skirt that comes down past your knees. So that stuff is really fun to learn about, even though I've got the simple, easy, modern equivalent. But the castle where I was at learning that is called Dune Castle, which I'd be surprised if anybody recognized it, but from the name, I bet you might recognize it if you'd seen it, particularly if you've ever watched Outlander, because they film Outlander there, and Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail. So you can go to that castle, and they actually have a member of Monty Python who does the audio tour. And so for the normal audio tours, they tell you like, oh, this is where they cooked whatever, and this is where this person slept, and all this stuff. But after that, if you hit the little audio button again, he comes on and he narrates what shot they filmed at each part of the castle. And so you get to kind of recreate bits of the movie as you're going through the castle. And that has been so much fun getting to see that.
Nico, we are getting short on time, but would you tell us about the time that you walked all the way across the country?
Oh, that was Hadrian's Wall. So this was about, I think we ended up walking, it was 90 to 100 miles over about 10 days. We went from coast to coast, and this was the wall that the Romans built to keep out the Scottish because they couldn't conquer Scotland. So they finally just said, oh, forget it. We're just going to build a wall and keep you guys out. So there's actually bits of that wall that are still there. So this is 2,000-year-old wall that you can walk right alongside pieces of it. It goes up and down the hills. But we absolutely loved this walk because, you know, it's not like, say, doing the Appalachian Trail or any of the really long, really beautiful hikes that you can do in the US. In this one, we would be in a bed and breakfast, and then we would hike to the next bed and breakfast, and then, you know, have a meal, have a shower, sleep in a bed, and then get up and hike to the next bed and breakfast. So it was ridiculously comfortable. I don't know if that's just, you know, as I'm getting older, I value that so much more than like having a tent and having to set up a tent every night. But it was amazing to see some of the historical things, like learning that all of the Romans always set up all of their forts in exactly the same way. So whenever you go from one fort to the next, you know what each thing was because that's exactly where it was in the last fort. That was all, you know, that was fascinating. I had no idea that they did that. One of probably the most interesting things to see, though, was the still standing Roman toilets, because, you know, you don't really, you don't tend to think about that kind of stuff, but then you see how they got that working. And now it's not like functional with water and nobody's using it anymore, but it was really cool to see, and just to imagine like this was the height of the comfort technology 2,000 years ago.
Wow.
So that was amazing. Yeah.
It sounds like you're having all kinds of different experiences there. And thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's afternoon for you. It's been great seeing you. I love
It's nice seeing you too. I love you too.
To go on to our next